Good evening, sheep fans. Welcome to welcome to R2Kast number 7 with internet sensation Cammy Wilson, otherwise known as the Sheep Game. If you want to say hello, Cammy.
Yeah, hi sheep fans. Thanks for tuning in.
Hopefully there'll be quite a lot of sheep fans coming over, and this might sort of build the podcast a wee bit. But yeah, I'm sure a lot of you know, probably all of you know who Cammy is. To be honest, he wears a lot of hats. He wears the shearing hat, he wears the scanning hat, he wears the farming hat, he wears the YouTube hat, the Facebook hat, the fancy podcast hat by the looks of the mic set up here. I'm just sat here on an iPad, sat on 3 NFU Leader magazines in a box. So you're beating me in that side of things. But we'll kick off, Cammy. I'll just quickly say where everyone can get stuff. So we've got, at the minute, you'll probably be listening to this on YouTube or Spotify. If you guys use the likes of Breaker or Google Podcasts, you'll be able to find the R2Kast on there as well. And if you do quite enjoy what you see, this, as I've said, this is number 7. We've got people in farming from all different corners of the industry, and not even just from the UK. We've had some from the States already. Coming on every 2 weeks. So subscribe on YouTube, follow on Spotify, and hopefully can build this into something quite good and have a few more folk on. So into the interesting stuff, away from all my boring nonsense. Who is Cammy Wilson? Who are you? What's your story? That sort of thing.
Aye, cheers, Wosk. It's firstly, great thing you're doing here. Really good. This podcasting, like I'm right into podcasts these days. Just like it's so simple to stick it on while you're working. Set of wireless headphones. You can learn a lot while you work. So, Cammy Wilson, I am I suppose first, I'm 30 years old, living in Ayrshire, and currently on my quest to either get a substantial tenancy, and by that I mean like a good 20-year type tenancy, something quite secure, or buy my own farm if that fails. And in the process of doing that, I'm just working on building up stock numbers, running over seasonal grass. By that I mean grass that's only rented on a year-by-year basis. So there's no real security with it. You can lose it at any point. So it's quite hard to manage and adapt a business around that. But beggars can't be choosers. As a new entrant to farming, you have to almost take what you can and make it work and adapt all the time. But it's good in that sense. Like it really prepares you for hopefully one day achieving this end goal of getting into farming. For a bit of background, as most people will know by now, I joined the police at 18 years old. I'm still currently in the police. That's 12 years later. Worked up in Glasgow, learned a lot about life and dealing with people, and it's been absolutely fantastic. And it wasn't until 5 years ago, I didn't own any sheep. I had started getting into shearing as a way of earning some additional income. Just because you get so many days off in the police, I just felt guilty. I thought, like, I need to do something with this free time. So shearing was the choice I made. And 5 years, so when I was 25, it all basically happened very suddenly when my father passed away. He got like a 2 months notice, like you've got cancer, you've got about 8 weeks to go. And then sure enough, they're right enough. It was like, indeed, 8 weeks later. I was like, I just like one of these things, just fair enough, they're fairly accurate. But it was like, just like, as you can imagine, 25-year-old, especially, I'm not saying this wouldn't be true in the town as well, but especially in farming, it's like your dad's like your hero. Like, and I know this is true for a lot of people too, but in farming, growing up, you're out there with your mum and dad all the time, doing all sorts of jobs and working together. Like, you would just come home from school. You're the same. You'd come home from school, and they're never farther than like 2 fields away. Like we're totally spoiled as farm kids. Not in terms of the financial side of things, but the actual time you get with your parents. So it was a big blow to me at 25. Although obviously I was an adult at that point, you're still like, wow, this is a sore one. So almost a sort of way of coping. I thought, right, I'm not going to get to work with sheep anymore because my dad was a shepherd. I should have really said that. My dad was a shepherd, so I'd still get plenty of chance to work with sheep, just randomly jumping back and forth here. But yeah, so it's like, how am I going to work with sheep? So I thought, right, I spoke to the boy that owned the farm he worked on, and my mum was still staying in the farmhouse at this half-acre garden. I thought, do you know what, I'm going to buy 4 sheep. put them in the garden, and we'll find a shed to lamb them in. So I foolishly went and bought 4 Texels from Stirling. It's buying the 4 sheep wasn't a foolish thing. It was buying Texels was my first mistake. They're not really a good breed in my opinion for getting started in sheep.
I think that's fair.
Aye, more for if once you're established and you've got a good setup and system to look after them, yeah, but not when you're just starting out. So anyway, I did it, and these 4 sheep come home in my mum's garden, and that was 5 years ago. And this year I'll be lambing round about 600 sheep, and we've got about 300 ewe hogs running on to Gimmer as well. So it's fairly exploded over this last 5 years, and I'm just like really ambitious and really hungry and just enjoying the whole process.
And has that been a steady growth, Cameron? So has it been like sort of roughly 120 odd a year, or has there been bits here and there where you take on 300 randomly? Or
that I have borrowed a lot of money. One great thing about being the police is you can just get finance so easy.
Right.
Like, you borrow money and no bother when you're in the police, because you almost can't default being a police officer. In fact, you can't default being a police officer. Right. There's sort of rules in the job against it, and you've got a steady income. People will loan to you. So I borrowed a lot of money, wasted a lot of money paying too much rent for grass was my big thing, and trying to rush, like, I want to get so many sheep. So every bit of ground I could get, I was like, I'll take it, even if it was far too dear. And I've slowly learned over this last 5 years that, you're better to not take that bit of ground and just have slightly less sheep and actually make a bit of money on your sheep, rather than just hemorrhaging money and shearing sheep all year just to pay for keeping sheep, which is what I was doing. My accountant has said to me for like the last 4 years, you're just a busy fool. Like, literally just slates me, and just, if it wasn't for the police wage coming in, it would just, you'd just be running at a loss all the time. But I had a big break, to be, it wasn't all just like hard work and stuff. I had a big break, sort of 2 years in. There was a young farmer startup grant on the go, and I managed to get somebody to agree to give me a piece of ground for a 5-year lease, which is part of the terms of applying for the grant. And that was a £50,000 cash. It was
right.
70,000 euros, but it came as like £56,000 or something. Lump sum cash, and that allowed me to buy a stock, because I had nothing like that. Allowed me to buy a stock trailer, a set of mobile pens, and various other equipment that you need really to work with sheep, because at that point I was just borrowing from everywhere. So that really made life a lot easier, and obviously I was able to buy some more sheep with that money.
Of course, yeah. And you said there that, sort of looking back, it would probably be a better idea to not have taken those opportunities where you were spending too much, but also retrospectively you might not be where you are if you had. So is it like no regrets, or is there some but still they sort of, you know what I mean?
Yeah, 100%. I actually get asked this exact question from, I filmed a little bit yesterday for the Farm Advisory Service with SRUC. You'll probably know about it. They're doing a FAS TV. So,
I think it would be brilliant, actually.
It sounds tremendous. Like, so they ask the same questions, like any regrets or things you do different. And I said it's one of those funny things in life, because if you're happy with where you are now, everything you've done has led you to this point. So to say, oh yeah, I want to take that bit of ground that was £100 an acre because I lost so much money, but if I hadn't taken that bit of £100 an acre, would I got the bit along the road at £30 an acre that was actually affordable and could actually work? So it's like, woulda, coulda, shoulda. Life is what it is. There's no point in dwelling and looking back and saying, I wish I'd done this. It's done now. Just make it work.
Exactly. You say it's you wasted a lot of money. Maybe sort of capital wise, yes, you did waste money, but when you look at it, you're like, well, I've taken that, as you say, £100 an acre set, however much that was. Folk are probably seeing, well, this boy's actually quite keen. He's given it a bash and he's putting the effort in, and that gets out there as well. So it's maybe even worth it, not even purely from what you're paying for. But yeah, you're obviously at the stage you are now, and plans to get further. I know you're an old man at 30, but
body feels that way, certainly.
All quite interesting stuff. It's quite funny what you say about, like, coming home from school and whatnot, and your mum and dad are never far away. reminds me of a story. The furthest I ever remember my dad being away from the house was one morning I'd went to school, and apparently a rabbit had come in the house, and he thought it was a rat. So he got his wellies on, and he was about 40 fields away, just in case.
Aye.
But yeah, for the most part, they're not far from the oatcake tin. You said you would look at taking a tenancy. You want to take sort of a large-scale long-term tenancy, and buying a farm be a backup. Does that mean you would prefer to have a tenancy than owning?
Yeah, I did think about that as I said those words earlier. If I was phrasing that right, I think realistically, my goal that I'm focusing on just now is get myself in a position to buy, because you can't just sit. Like, getting in a position to buy is something you can do, but getting a tenancy or sitting waiting and hoping a tenancy comes up, it's, there's no. It's not really. I'm not saying it's not a goal, but I like my goals to be like something that you can achieve.
Yep.
I can definitely work towards buying a farm, but I can't definitely work towards hoping a tenancy comes up. Do you know what I mean? Like, I like it to be. I like my goals to be like, there it is in front of you, go for it. Whereas there's no tenancies in front of me. So, but what I'm saying was, like, Crown Estates is a good one, and like Mount Stuart Trust over in Butte. Obviously, I'm very friendly with like R2Kast, who I've seen some of my videos, and he's got this unbelievable opportunity over there on this massive farm on a 20-year MLDT, and it's like as good as buying your farm without having to pay the massive deposit and having the massive mortgage. Like, it's just a fantastic opportunity he's got. And I know that Crown Estates has recently put out some really good farms, and a lot of them are focused now towards new entrants, especially because Crown Estates is publicly owned. So there's a real focus towards new entrants there. And if an opportunity like that come up, I'd be silly not to seriously consider it and have a go with it, because it's a great way to get into farming. But probably my main focus is, work towards something that you can achieve and that is actually there to that can be measured and specific. And it's like, I can achieve that. So try to get myself in the best financial position possible is the goal at the moment. Just try to make some money.
He's a poor man, is Cameron, and I'm sure if you watch his videos, he'll tell you that enough.
I tell you, funny. I'm starting doing another wee thing on the side for new entrants that I'm working on just now, and I'll be talking more about that soon at some point. But like, I'm going to go through some things with accounts and stuff like that. But genuinely, this year will be my first year making a profit as a farmer. So,
which, you could look at that as it's taking you 5 years to make a profit, or it's only taking you 5 years to start making a profit. There's two ways to look at that, and you're diversifying in quite a few ways at the minute, and that takes an initial investment. So yeah. If you're starting to start profit now.
The other thing with farmers, like, farmers are great at pleading the poverty thing, and I never do that, because I've got a great life and I can afford to buy these things that I don't really need, and do things like that. I'm fairly comfortable, and the way I step back and look at things is, right, there's no real money in the bank, but I have nearly 1,000 head of sheep standing, which in the current market,
yes,
with the guts of £140,000 worth of stock, just a liquid asset. Just if one day I was just like, do you know what, I want to go and buy a fishing boat and just be a fisherman, you can just be like, bang, get them all in the market, cash in, that's there. So although, a typical farmer, a lot of them are the same. They're cash poor, but asset rich. And that's kind of the way I look at it.
Cash poor, asset rich, and also quality of life rich.
Oh,
and
massive.
That has got to play into it, Well, I assume the people, obviously we're in an industry where there's a lot of soul working, and that leads to a lot of mental health issues. But for the most part, those in farming are doing it for the love of farming. So that's got to play into it almost more importantly than the bank.
100%. No, it's like you say, it's like I think sometimes people looking from the outside in can't quite get it. It's like, I don't feel anything I do in farming that never feels like work.
Yeah.
The only time I feel like I'm working is when I go to the police. And even that's feel like working, I'm like, but no, but like, you go in there, you're under somebody's telling you what to do. give or take. But you're under you're under somebody's direct management, and it's not a case of do this. In farming, a lot of time you don't have a choice. You have to do certain things. Like the sheep have to be fed, say, this time of year, and you have to dose them. But if, say, the great example I use to people in terms of lifestyle is, say if next week, it's your son's or your daughter's sports day on Thursday, you don't need to ask game day. Is it all right if I take Thursday off? Or you don't need to have a spare day in your rest day bank to book it off. You just say, that's fine, I'll do a bit more on Wednesday, or we'll get those ewes dosed on Tuesday, and I'm taking Thursday off. Yeah. Or Thursday afternoon off. But it's just an example. There's a wedding, you need the Saturday off. You never need to ask permission, and everything, generally speaking, unless it's a big sheep sale or something that you like, or Kelso or something that you need to go to. So sorry, son, you'll just need to listen up with you in spirit, but it's Kelso the day. Who put sports day on Highland Show Day?
I was just going to say Highland Show Day. There's a few things in the calendar, especially if you go ahead next year, that folk will not be missing anything for.
Oh,
maybe your daughter's wedding, but you'll still be at the Highlands, I guess that moves us on to something else. There, Cammy, has COVID changed your sort of lifestyle at all?
Apart from the price of lambs going up so much,
it's been beneficial.
It's been amazing for us on various fronts. I think obviously the big negatives are no shows, and last year it was almost like a novelty because, as you were saying earlier, and as I mentioned, I do sheep shearing, and I've got my own run now and stuff, and it was actually quite a novelty for the first year. We didn't have to think about going to shows and sorting sheep round shows. You just walked right through, like it was. Yeah, we get finished up, despite the fact there's no Kiwi shearers coming in. We all get finished on time because we're not running away to any shows. It was actually quite good, but the novelty's worn off now. That way it's like I just really want to go to a show and get a bit of crack, and have a few beers with the boys and the girls. Like, just, I definitely miss that. But apart from that, COVID was great. Like last lambing time when the first lockdown came in, it was magic. There was nobody in the roads. Like, I've got a fair bit of driving to do, and you're just driving about like in your own wee world. Nobody in the roads. You could get about places. Apart from a couple of weeks where things panicked a bit at the markets, it's been a very steady trade. For beef's pretty good as well just now. Like, farmers don't have anything to complain about. More and more people are eating lamb off the back of this, because there's more people cooking at home and trying different things, and it's been good for us. Like, we can't really moan, I would say.
It's that's me got the title. COVID was great. Well,
best thing that ever happened to me. No, don't say that. But no, obviously
shadow banned for that. But
I better throw in here that obviously it's a horrific thing, and I'm not saying that like I'm glad it's happened at all. But I'm just saying that we're very lucky in the agriculture sector, and we can't complain. I'm lucky with both my jobs because the police as well. Like, of course, you're never going to worry about getting furloughed in the police. No matter what happens. If I get a track and trace text, I still get full pay for 2 weeks while I sit in the house and do nothing. I'm very fortunate on both fronts.
I think I've been in the same position. With my job, I'm working full time, and over the summer I was able to cut grass, and there was always work there. And I think we in the rural sort of base really struggle to sort of empathise how it must be. And you'd mentioned there about folk eating lamb and the trade. I mean, I don't remember the trade being so good, and it was quite interesting at the start of the year, the start of lockdown. I was listening to the reasons why, and the reasons why was money was tight, and instead of sort of trying new things, it's almost the opposite. Instead of folk sort of trying new things, jumping into vegan diets, vegetarian diets, that sort of thing, they jumped back to what they knew was nutritious, what they knew was good for them, and what they knew was relatively affordable in lamb and beef and that sort of thing. And such is the case with any disaster, really. Agriculture quite often benefits from it. It's almost in bad taste to say that, but it's true. It's the sort of thing you can't sort of slate agriculture with your mouth full, because we're here to feed 3 times a day, and it's like you say,
a
silver lining, if you will.
Aye, like the nurses and the doctors, they're keeping the sick people alive are doing their very best to, whereas the farmers, excuse me, the farmers, they're keeping the healthy people fed and alive, you know, like it's, as you say, it's in times of greatest need. I mean, there's a reason why farmers didn't have to go to war.
Yeah.
Like, because the nation would have been, you know, they're one of the most important, apart from obviously the boys, you know, doing the fighting, they're probably the next line of keeping the country going, is the boys and girls on the farms. And it's a great line of work to be in. And at times like this, like, folk really do appreciate it. Another great thing you're talking about is benefiting from it. All the nonsense that was been said before all this about cows farting is like ruining the environment and all that. Funny, all the planes come out the sky. You know, what's their emissions sitting at now?
And it was crazy to see the likes of places like Paris go from sort of like smoky cities and what's the place on the water? Venice, the water cleared up. Everywhere just looked better. Yeah. And, you know, I'm not one to jump on the anti-vegan bandwagon because I'm not at all. I think there's so many merits to it. But as you say, it spoke volumes. You know, it spoke volumes that it's not us killing the planet. Yeah. We might have a part to play in it, but we're also not the major player in it that we're seen to be.
Yeah. No, there's definitely, especially on the cattle side of things, it's difficult. It's obviously quite a high input system, but it's still producing a valuable end product that's important for keeping us all fed. I mean, I've got a wee thing I always say about vegans. Like, I like to just throw this in while we've mentioned it, because I'm the same as you. Like, I would never get involved in, like, I would never slag anyone for being a vegan or you know, discredit vegans in any way. But I use this comparison. It's right on the edge of, like, you know, maybe a bit of an extreme comparison. But I always say it's like the Islamic faith. It's like you have people who just think of Islam and just think of terrorists and extremists, whereas actually 99% of people who follow Islam are very peaceful. You know, they stick to their views, but they're very peaceful and they get on with it and do it their own way. You've then got that 1%, like with vegans, like, credit to anybody that can live their life as a vegan and just get on with it and not have to push it in anybody's face. But you get these 1% on both, where I essentially see them as like extremists. I almost see them as, like, you know, as like extremist terrorists, even on the vegan side, where they're forcing their views on you. It's like, you have to be vegan like me. The same way, you know, you see some of these extremist Islamic terrorists and stuff. You have to be like this. The Western world's wrong, blah, blah, blah. The vegans are the same with meat eaters. You're wrong. Whereas, like, I never go about telling people you have to eat meat. And, you know, I don't actually know anybody that does that. Like, there really is a thing there. And I know I would get some wild comments if they saw this, and that's fair enough. I wouldn't argue with any of you, because you can't win in an argument with an extremist. But but they have this just a set view that they're right and everyone else is wrong. And you should never, like, I try and advise people on social media and people with farming pages, don't engage in it, because you cannot win.
Yeah.
You know, you can't win with these people. No matter what you say, they're not going to say, oh, do you know what, you're right, I'm going to have a steak. Because they've just set that they're right and everyone else is wrong.
And it's the comparison there to sort of, you talked about Islam there, it's anything that you can worship the belief, be that a football team, be that religion, be that anything, there's always 99% are just they believe in this thing, and 1% are take it too far.
Yeah, and it's those 1% that ruin. I just use that the Islam religion as an example because it's quite topical in today's society. But it's those 1% ruin it for all the peaceful people and the good people that just got on with it and you know, practice it. Same with vegans. Like, I don't know if vegans maybe a bit like CrossFit. It's like, if you're a vegan, you have to tell everyone you're a vegan. Same with it's like, you know, if you do CrossFit, you have to tell everyone you do CrossFit. I think it's maybe a bit like that with being a vegan. But, like, credit, honestly, huge respect to anyone that can live their life peacefully 100%. As a vegan, because it must be very difficult to stick to it, and credit to them.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's true. I mean, you've got a pretty big following yourself, Cammy, and we'll go on to that in a minute. But I've got vegan followers, and we have some really interesting discussions, you know. And that's what certainly why I started this up. I wanted it to be sort of a conversation about that. My thing, we'll go off veganism after this, but my thing is, I think there's three main reasons to be vegan. There's a sort of animal health, welfare. You don't believe animals should be exploited for our gain. Totally fair, completely understand it. Wouldn't try and change your mind. Health reasons. I am not a doctor. I have no sort of reason that I could dispute that. And the third one's sort of environmental, and that's the only one I would ever really start to try and defend. Not meat production in general, but certainly in Scotland, you know, it's a lot of hill-based production. It is sustainable, that sort of thing. But that's sort of my view on it. But we've talked enough about it now, I'm sure.
Oh, we're going to get slated. Oh, we're in for it now. Cut this bit out.
Yeah, that's it. Get it all gone. But no, we've talked about sort of your sort of lifestyle as farmer, that sort of thing, and you've touched upon shearing. Could you tell us a bit about sort of your shearing calendar, and also throw in, you do quite a bit of scanning as well in there. What sort of is a year almost in your?
Yeah, so I suppose if we start from like lambing time, so 1st of April, we'll lamb. Most of April we'll be lambing. I tease them like ewes, so they lamb quite tight. Then getting into May, I'll be starting to look at doing some shearing. We'll get some early lots done. Some pedigree boys and girls that have big sheep that have lambed back in January, February will be ready for shearing, so we'll get through them in May. Obviously, keeping on top of my ewes and lambs that are running at that time as well, and marking lambs and various jobs. Then June, July, August is more or less shearing. Well, we'll be shearing every day this year. I then get a little bit of a break-ish, and it's September's end of August. September's not so busy, although there's a lot of breeding sales on at those times.
Yeah.
So I'll potentially be dressing gimmers to sell and maybe buying in some stock as well. Then on a normal year, I'd be going to Norway for more shearing in sort of September, October, probably for 2 weeks then. And again, apart from that 2 weeks, September, October, November, not too busy. The tups go out in November, but you're just ticking over. You know, you might have a couple of days dozing sheep and various, like selling some lambs, things like that, but you're not too busy, or I'm not too busy. Then sort of midway December, January, February, you're kind of flat out scanning, pregnancy scanning, which is a good way to make money. It's an easy way to make money. Once you get it, it's like a nightmare to learn. Like, it's horrific to learn. It really is. Mentally, it's really tough. But you know, once you've got it, it's really a good way to make money. So I do that right through to, well, I've actually this year done it right through to the start of March. And then we fall into a lull again, as I am here just now at the start of March. We are just waiting for lambing to start, crutching lambs at the market every Thursday through the winter, and just chatting to you and have the odd whiskey. And it's quite an easy time just now, this spell. Feeding sheep, you know, takes an hour or so a day just to feed the sheep and check everything's okay and wait for some lambs.
Have the odd whiskey, as he points to the back corner, or more whiskey than I have water in the house. I'm trying to compete. We're actually talking about this earlier on. So you, maybe this is an answer that you don't want to say, because I know you certainly kept it quiet last year on YouTube. How many sheep would you be looking to shear and scan in a year? So obviously two totally different figures, I know.
Yeah, no. So this year I'll have skinned about just over 40,000 sheep. But a part of that was because I was very fortunate. A New Zealand chap that usually comes over and scans up north, he didn't make it over this year, so I got the opportunity to go and do a couple of weeks covering some of his jobs. So that put me up a good 10,000 or so extra. So that was a big boost. But yeah, I look at about 40,000 sheep scanned. Last year ashore, about 15,000, slightly more. A stint in Norway, say 17,000 total. Whereas this year, I'm really going to be looking, I've got more time off this year, so I'll be looking more towards 20,000 to shear, certainly. So yeah, those two good extra sources of income to really keep the sheep business going, because making money off sheep, it'll be okay this year if the trade stays as it is. Like I will make money this year off my sheep, but it's difficult to make money off seasonal grazing because generally you're paying a little bit more than you should be. Quite often you have no entitlements, no subsidy claims on it. And to try and make money off sheep on those systems, it's quite difficult.
Just like Cammy, my sneeze there. You said you go to let's hope it's the cold.
As COVID's been great. COVID's been great. That's what you get, Cammy.
Exactly. Talk about karma. Pick you up halfway through the podcast. No, you said you go to Norway for a couple of weeks. It's obviously quite a short duration. Does it pay quite well in Norway, or
Norway's
just for fun?
No, Norway's good. So you go twice a year. So I'd usually go end of February, March, but COVID obviously we haven't got this year, and I didn't get last back end either. So hopefully we get over this back end. But Norway's quite wild. It's round about £4 a sheep.
Right. Okay.
In Norway. Now it's not as good a money as scanning, but and scanning's so much easier. But the back end's not so bad because you're shearing them as they come into the shed. So the sheep in Norway come off the mountains and they get shorn, they go in the shed, and then pre-lambing, they get shorn at the end of February, March, when they're due to lamb in April. So when you go over for the pre-lamb, it's horrific. Like, easy. Last year I went for 10 days, like easy the hardest 10 days of my life.
Right.
Like it's just tough. Like they're just massive. They're a kind of pink note. They're a wee bit of Dorset in them. So they're really aggressive. Not aggressive, but they are aggressive. They just want to kick for no reason. And they're uncomfortable because the lambs are in them. They're what we'd call sticky in shearing. So they're actually quite hard to comb. So you have to use like a merino comb, which is quite pointy. So you have to be very careful when you take your time. So you're bent over for longer. And you're just eating bread and cheese a lot of days, and it's there's not, and Norwegian folk are great, but obviously the language barrier a lot of time with farmers, so there's not much chat. You're just at shed yourself, like me, Archie and I that go over together, we split up. It's tough shearing in Norway for sure, but obviously it's quite lucrative because they're you're sitting around about £4 a sheep.
I know I've got one Norwegian follower on Spotify, so I'm going to embarrass myself here. But what language as they speak? It's not Norwegian. Is it? It's Norwegian. I didn't think that was a language.
Yeah, Norwegian. Yeah.
I know. Cut that part out.
Yeah, I know a couple of simple. You say like "Tusen takk for maten." That's like thanks so much for dinner, for feeding us.
Okay, right. So that's
that
the one thing you need to know.
But that and just hada. That means bye.
Hello, thanks for dinner and goodbye. It's all you need to know. What you mentioned, the sheep had a bit of Dorset in them. What is the breed? Is it
Norwegian white?
Norwegian white.
It's called Norwegian white, but it will be a sort of. I would say there's some sort of Dorset in them and cross with various liveries. They're a big sheep, prolific. They have easy a lot of herds. Flocks will be scanning at 230% plus.
Right.
You'll go. They're all like inside to the winter, and a lot of them are like slatted sheep slats, which are absolutely fantastic. And you'll go in and there'll be a pen of fives, like pen of sheep.
All right.
They're going to have 5 lambs. You have your 5s, your 4s, your 3s, and there's just obviously shearing a sheep that's a month off the lambing with 5 lambs in her. Like it's it's uncomfortable for her. Obviously, it's beneficial because she's got the wool off and stuff, but it's a fair drag. They're heavy, easy. You'll easily go to a shed with 200 sheep and they'll average out 100 plus kilos. Like it's fair show in the body.
Take it they're reared quite heavily indoors after birth, or is it straight out? Or
no, they'd stay indoors. They'll lamb around about April, early May, and they'll stay until basically to the snow thaws.
Is it?
Yeah. So the snow thaws and the grass comes. It's it's just very different to us here. Like over there, most of the farmers you'll go to aren't farmers. They're just either business people or people that have, because it's so simple, the systems. Because you just have a sheep shed, you go in the morning, you feed them silage and a bit of meat, if they're getting some concentrate, and then you go in at night and feed them silage, and they're getting checked twice a day. You see straight away if something's not coming for a feed. You deal with it there and then. You can't get any antibiotics or like fluke drench or anything like that unless you go through the vet. Everything has to be administered by the vet.
Okay.
So you get these business people, dead simple, go out in the morning before their work, go to work, come home, do that, and in the summer they just get kicked up to the mountains, and they don't see them for 5 months, 6 months.
And the gather's like a big thing, isn't it? It's like a proper.
Yeah,
I was in England and they spoke about that. Yeah, sounds like great crack actually.
Farms over there, you just need like 20 acres. You just need enough to make your silage for your sheep through the winter. Take 2 or 3 cuts of silage, and the sheep all just communal graze in the mountains, and you get big subsidies for having sheep, so it's like an extra big earner.
Yeah,
for the farmer.
Well, it's funny. I had Grant. We have Grant Harkham to scan our sheep.
Yeah.
And I was asking him a few questions for the students, and I asked what was the breed he would think scanned the highest, and he had said the North English mule.
Yep.
You've just mentioned there that those are scanning at 230. Are they the highest? You've not scanned them though, but
no, I mean, part of the reason they'll scan so well is because how well looked after they are. You know, they're tupping inside, and they'll be well flushed, really well flushed, and so it's a very different system to what we would have here. Like, you're hard to beat a mule for the amount of lambs she puts out, and especially it'll not be far wrong there with the North England mule. Like, she'll put out a lot of lambs.
Very good. I guess we've talked about a lot of stuff that maybe some of your followers aren't always sort of graced with, but we'll talk about the reason you have such a high following. We'll go on to that. Now, I'm going to say this, and I wouldn't be surprised if Cammy brings out the saying that he's small time. You hear him say it all the time, and I throw in violin comments and whatnot. But I spoke to you for the People in Farming chat I did on the Facebook page before I had the podcast. You're week number 5, which would be around August time, and I think you're at about 6k subscribers. Is that about right on YouTube?
Could be. I wouldn't know, but yeah, it could be
6 or something. You've hit 15 now, haven't you? Is it?
Yeah, it's just over 15 and a half.
Yeah, so it's been quite quick, because you didn't just start it a year ago. You started a bit longer than that ago, didn't you? So you've got up to 15 quite quick in the last few months. What is the sheep game? What's involved in it? What happens there?
Yeah, so it all just started as a bit of banter. Like, I did a lot in Snapchat when I was out farming. I just used to always make a joke. Like, it's always when things are going wrong and you're out in the rain getting soaked, and I'd always just be like, the sheep game, love the sheep game, and all this, a bit of banter. I actually did love it, but I just used to always say, love, that's the sheep game, or it's some game, this and that kind of patter. So somebody said to me one day, why don't you make a YouTube channel and put some of these videos on YouTube? I thought, I might try that. I had a wee look at Tom Pemberton down south, who's obviously massive. I thought, this guy's just walking around his dairy farm making like good videos. Like, he's an absolute entertainer. He's very good. But I'm like, let me give this a wee go. So I made the first few on my mobile phone, really poor quality, very basic, and it's just that was February 2019. So we're just over 2 years. It was like, it took 14 months to get to 1,000 subscribers. And then the next 10 months, we've got to like 15,000, or just shy of 15 it was at the time. But yeah, it's just grown. It's exponential. All these things are exponential, like the Hoof GP, who's another massive one on YouTube. He's been actually quite a big help to me. He gave me a phone one day. It was great. He had absolutely no need to, but he phoned me and he gave me about an hour of his time, giving me some tips and stuff. And he's a prime example. It's like, 1 week he's at 400,000 subscribers, and then within 15 days he's at 500,000. Like, it's all exponential. Once you get big and your videos get a lot of views, you pick up more followers, more subscribers, and that's why I'm just trying to keep consistent. I mean, there's no doubt about it. It is small time. It's big to 15,000. Looking at it now, like when I first started, I was like, wow, man, I'd love to get to 15,000. And it's always that kind of way, isn't it? Like, because I have those subscribed, I'm like, I always want more. Or, you look at these other guys with 300,000, you think, this is like nothing. But I'm really pleased with how it's going steady, and I just try and keep the content good and fairly accurate to what I'm doing. And I'll just there's no pressure. It's just just see where it goes, just enjoy it and see where it goes. It's great. A bit like yourself, just podcasting and putting out these, great content on Facebook and social media. And I mean, I think I looked I think you're sitting nearly 3,000 on Facebook now.
Yeah, 2.7-ish.
Yeah. But you're a prime example as well of consistency, and like that's a big tip for anyone that's doing social media is like consistency. Like the number one, I watched loads of YouTube videos about how to make YouTube videos.
I have the same. I've done the same. Yeah.
Yeah, and like the number one rule is get started. Like, don't sit thinking, well, I'll start a YouTube video. I know. It's like, get your phone out, make a video doing something, and get it on YouTube. And then once you get started, consistency, 2-3 videos a week if you can, and just keep going. Nobody will watch them at first. Like, nobody's going to watch your videos. It's just an absolute fact because nobody's going to see it. But you just keep chipping away, and then before you know it, you're at 100 subscribers, and you're like, oh, like I still remember, like 100 subscribers, I'm like, oh, that's amazing. And then you hit 1,000, and you're like, because 1,000's a massive one on YouTube, because then you can be monetized.
Yeah. So
it's a big goal for a lot. So it took me 14 months. So you can imagine how slow that climb was. And before you know it, you're at 1,000, and you just keep putting those 2 videos out, and you learn as you go, and your videos get better, and it just grows and grows. And don't get me wrong, I've not had my, I suppose you maybe call it your big break. Like YouTube will maybe just pick up. You see some videos YouTube just picks up, and YouTube will basically get you 500,000 views by just showing it to the world. I've not quite got that yet, but I'm always trying better thumbnails, better titles, just trying. Like it will happen someday. Like Tom Pemberton's got one there at like 8 million views of like cows getting a new brush in the field. It just get picked up by YouTube and went massive, and that's been a big bump to his subscribers, of course. But you can't base your whole plan on getting lucky. Just being consistent. It's like everything in life, though. Like I'm not getting on my high horse preaching, no, but it's like I read all these books like 4-Hour Work Week and various things like that. These fantastic productivity books. It's not about your end goal. It's about the systems to get to your end goal. So, as long as your systems are sound, as i.e. producing 2 videos a week, keeping your content good, that's like your system to getting to 100,000 subscribers. Don't worry so much about the goal. Focus on the system and keep it right. And it's the same. I'm big into fitness as well. If your goal's to run a 10K in 33 minutes or whatever, focus on set your training plan, focus on it. Don't worry too much. That'll come to you. The goal will come towards you if you get your system right. I'm getting so deep there. I try not to do that. Deep. I know I'm so bad at that. I'm so bad. I get so passionate about these things. I'm just like, don't worry about where you're going. Just, focus on, how you're getting there.
I think it's true though. I mean, like, did Sandy Brock not mention you in a video?
Yeah, she gave me a massive boost, Sandy. Yep, and she's just
you went from about 9 to about 12 in about a few weeks.
Oh, just like a couple of days. I think just 2,000 subscribers within a couple of days. Like she got me.
Yeah.
So that's an example of a great bit of luck, and that was really, really decent of her, because I genuinely, like, I would never ask anyone for a shout out. Like it's just not in me to do that. And not that there's any harm in it, but I just wouldn't annoy these people almost. And just
I won't ask you for a shout out on your YouTube channel for this.
No, don't worry. This will get shared, mate. Don't worry. But like, it's like I wouldn't have asked her, but just making consistent content that she actually liked to watch. And she knew I was getting near 10,000 and that she'd been through the same experience, and she gave me a shout out, and it was massive. It was great.
Yeah, no, and somehow I heard about Sandy Brock through you.
Yep. So there you go. I'm returning the favour.
Yeah, exactly. Like it's quite weird. I mean, like I assume there's some people that will hear about you through this, but it does happen.
Yeah, definitely.
The consistency thing is so true though. I mean, like obviously I'm not near the sort of level you are, but I have had quite big opportunities come through, and I'm not huge, from an online presence perspective. And I put that solely down to the fact I've not missed a weekday since the 14th of April.
Yeah, you're the most consistent person that I follow. Like you're just like every day, I think, isn't it? Or Monday to Friday.
I could show you the schedule, but I won't. But I've got like the next 3 weeks scheduled for 7 o'clock on every night. The only thing I can't schedule is these, because I schedule them on YouTube. Like this will be shit. Oh God, this is like a month and a half before it goes out. But I can't schedule a link to a scheduled YouTube video.
Yeah.
So the only thing I can do
is this so this will be going out like mid-April or something?
Yes, because
in that case I had a fantastic lambing. Lambing's been amazing. Honestly, best lambing ever.
I see you think of these things. I just post it and then I forgot it was
What
May
fantastic.
instead of
What about this weather, mate? How good's this weather been?
Let's not talk about the lockdown we're just going back into.
Can't believe those vaccines didn't work.
I am not going to get into vaccines because if I start talking about needles, I'll end up fainting on the desk. So, but no, it's. I would advise you guys check out Cammy at the sheep game. He has one thing a few things, but one thing that I wish I had, and it's just came to him, and it's not his hair. I have definitely enough hair to compete.
Beautiful.
Is his slogan. On you go.
What's that? Good morning, sheep fans. Cammie's the name.
One. That's
Sheep's the game. do you know why I put that second bit in? Because people kept just I would meet people and they'd be like, "Oh, you're the sheep game guy. You're the sheep." That's all I got is you're the sheep, because I never said my name in the first videos. So I'm like, "Oh, you're the sheep game guy." So I thought, right, I need to get my name in here somehow so that people know I have a name. So that's how I started doing the Cammie's the name, sheep's the game.
Well, maybe it won't be long if you get big enough that it'll be sheep is the name, Cammie's the game. The only thing I've ever been able to come up with is that's all the day from R2K, but it sounds a bit poor. But maybe something will appear.
I'll come to you sometime. Yeah.
So we've covered pretty much all sides of your life there, really, Cammie. But I always sort of ask a couple questions. You answered these questions back when in September, and I just actually checked to see your answers just before you came onto Zoom call there, and we'll see how similar they are. One, where do you see yourself in 5 years? And two, if you had any tips for anyone coming into industry, and feel free for you to answer shearing, scanning, farming, YouTube, whatever, what would they be?
So the 5 years thing, I see myself probably genuinely in 5 years. I'm not sure what I said last time, but genuinely in 5 years, I see myself in a very similar position, maybe lambing a few more sheep. I'd like to lamb 1,000 sheep either next year or the next couple of years. And as I say, I wouldn't be buying a farm in 5 years. So, but I do plan to be in a much better position financially and in a position where I'm moving towards that goal. If a tenancy come up, I'm now in a position where I could probably tender for it. It helps that Archie's out the picture now because he's got his farm, so I'm not going to have to compete against him because, I know his story and his circumstances, and I was never going to beat him there. Sorry, my pup is just, Lizzie's pup is just jumping up. 5 years probably very similar, just maybe having a couple extra quid in the bank, starting to save towards the opportunity of buying a place. And in terms of tips, as I say, I try to do a bit for new entrants and things. The big tip I've got is networking. Like I say this to everyone, if you want to get into farming, the number one thing you need to do if you want to get into farming is network. Whether that be, go and do a hill gather, and you don't expect to don't be looking to get paid for everything. Like I say this to people, if you want to learn, I just love opportunity. And I know it's easy for me to say because I have another job and things, so I do appreciate that, and people need to earn money. But supposing it's going out in the weekends, you work Monday to Friday in a farm, but it's not really what you want to do long term. You think you want to get into sheep or whatever. Find somebody that's doing a hill gather on a Saturday, or find somebody that's working with a big mob of sheep doing a bit of dozing or something that you're interested in, and just, COVID's made it awkward just now, but just ask to go out and help. You go and do a hill gather and just go along for the crack, an extra pair of hands. You're going to meet 10, 15 people, 10, 15 shepherds, and get to know them. And if they know you're keen, they might hear of an opportunity that they can't do, but they think, do you know what? Cammy was out the other day against a hand. He's a right good young lad or lass. And I'm not questioning myself. I know I'm a lad, but I swear.
Right.
But, he's a right good young lad or lass, and he's desperate to go on and farming. He was out there. He just ran about all day, worked hard. Let's give him this opportunity. And so many things have come up for me from a similar sort of angle of just working hard, helping people out when I can, and they might hear an opportunity that doesn't suit them, and they might say, right, phone Cammy and see if he's keen to be pups weren't involved.
I know, I've seen that. What's in on it?
It's but yeah, You're all right, fam. So, but yeah, it's networking. Like it doesn't. It's just that I could say various other things that work hard, and yeah, shearing's great to get into, but if you want to get into farming, network and the opportunities will come.
I couldn't agree more with the networking part. I mean, even sort of doing this sort of thing. I mean, I've met. This is number 7. I obviously knew you before. I knew Jess before. I knew some of them before, but I've met so many folk out of this already, and it's only gone 2 months, and that's fantastic. And like you said, sort of that networking leads you to almost get opportunities, and sort of almost it can sometimes bolster you as well. Like you said, Graham Parker, Hoof GP, phoned you and helped you. He did the exact same with me in October. I mean, I was like nobody to him, and
same.
And, yeah, and that sort of thing. If you get lucky and you meet these helpful folk, like you've been helpful to me, I'd like to think I'm helpful to folk. You can build up and meet folk, and it is the best currency in farming, and I couldn't stress that just as much as you have. So yeah, good stuff. Have you anything else that yourself or the pup would like to say in particular?
No, it's just it's very. You're obviously getting very good at this. It was good questions, well put across. Hopefully, I came across okay, even when I went off on that mad tangent about Islamic vegans. But it's always quite. Do you know? It's easy for me when I've got the camera because the pup's clicked.
You've actually just turned it off as you said, camera.
Hang on a second to find this, but the pup's clicked it. But it's easy for me when I have the camera because I can edit it to suit myself. But when someone else has got the camera or the audio recording or whatever, it's quite like, oh, you better not say something bad. But hopefully it's came across okay. I've enjoyed it, mate. And you're doing a great thing.
It's funny you say that about editing and stuff. You've probably been the person that's helped me most with all that sort of thing. And I had never edited a video until, was it the 14th of January? And I've made 46 since then. So it's actually quite fun. Like you said, it's not difficult once you learn. And I'm not advanced yet, but you're so right. And I even went to the stage of buying a wee £30 drone. So
I saw your mom bought that for you, did she not?
No, I see you've been following Aaron for sale once, but no, she contacted the person, but I did actually pay for it myself. Yes. I get an allowance though; it was out of the allowance, but
some man.
Maybe I'll be at your stage one day with your fancy drones and your sort of podcast set up there and whatnot. But at the minute, as I said, it's just the iPad and a few magazines. But it does the job perfect. But thank you very much for coming on. Appreciate it. It's been good fun. And to those listening, if you don't know already, I'm sure you do. Make sure to check out the Sheep Game on YouTube, Facebook as well. Instagram, anywhere else? Is it?
Yeah, Instagram. Yep. Instagram, I tried a TikTok, but it's for the youngins. It's not for me.
It's so hard.
Oh, it's hard.
Yeah.
Aye. Don't get me wrong. Like I can spend hours scrolling through nonsense, but it's difficult.
It's amazing that you can fit into 10 minutes, isn't it? 2 hours on TikTok and it just disappears. But I tried to make the Christmas challenge where you throw a bauble in somewhere and then close it. I did. Well, that's embarrassing, actually, that you saw it. It's not something anybody.
Oh, no, sorry, I didn't see yours, but I saw good ones.
Good. I did it with a tractor. We did a Christmas tractor run, and it was more time looking at the bloody ground than anything. But anyway, thanks for coming on. Thanks to everyone for listening, and we will see you in another 2 weeks for R2Kast number 8.
Cheers, mate.